Hello, and welcome to the program that takes you on a ride in 25 minutes to seek out innovation and creativity that are unique to Africa. On this week's edition, we take you outside the shores of Nigeria into Rwanda, where a tech company is using renewable energy to bridge the digital mile in Africa. Also, watch out for my conversation on innovation and entrepreneurship with Chizaram Uchiaga, who is the director of Founder Institute Abuja. We give you more in a moment. This is Tech Trends, and I am Olayemi Odunuga.
Computers don't create computer animation any more than pencils create pencil animation. What creates computer animation is the artist.
Henry Yakarundi is a computer science graduate from Rwanda who is dedicated to providing digital access for low-income people. In this next story, we'll show you how his company, ARED, is using technology for social good through mobile smart solar-powered kiosks.
This Rwandan entrepreneur, Henry Yakarundi, is transforming how people charge phones in his country. Henry is the CEO of ARED, meaning African Renewable Energy Distributor, a tech firm using solar to bridge the digital divide in Africa through mobile solar-powered kiosks called Shiriki hubs.
Hard tech is hardware plus software built into one. You can call it deep tech or any other ways. And you know, if you look at the digital infrastructure space, internet, storage, computing, energy space, drone, EV, all this require hardware, some type of hardware. And unfortunately, when you look at all those innovations, they're dominated by foreign companies and not Africans. So there's massive gap in have seen innovators that are African that our government needs to solve by better promoting local innovators. Because if we don't start promoting local innovators with how young our population is in Africa and the demand of employment is massive, then we're going to have huge problem in the future. So there is huge opportunity, but there is also huge challenges that our government needs to solve to really bridge the gap and really promote local innovation over international foreign innovators. Just like any other countries do, whether it's Asia, Europe, or America, you know, you see American company promoting, you know, their own innovation, but in Africa, we still have a long way to go.
In many rural and semi-urban areas in Africa, it has now become easier to own a mobile phone, and even though connectivity has increased in some countries, having constant electricity and internet access is still a major problem. Henry sought to solve this digital divide by developing a mini server platform to store digital applications closer to the users and minimize the cost of the internet. The solar kiosk was then built to power the technology and also provide additional services such as phone charging to become a one-stop shop platform.
We have a GPS module on the mini server, so we know where all the solar kiosks are at any given time. And the mini server can work as a cluster, as a group. So actually, third-party developer can actually build application on top of our infrastructure, right? So it's just a way for us to use this infrastructure for more than just the basic phone charging, distribution of digital content. We also want to use that same infrastructure to solve the storage and computing infrastructure gap that exists in Africa. And pretty much that's how the technology works. We implement all these kiosks in different areas. The mini server can also be implemented in third-party kiosks, in retail places, within buses, and they all work as one. And of course, they're all connected through the internet. One of the biggest problems we have in Africa also is that most of the storage and computing infrastructure that we use as Africans is built outside the continent. So when you want to access YouTube, for example, that video you're accessing is stored in a server somewhere in Europe or in the US or somewhere else. So that information has to come all the way through your phone. But if you store that same video locally within your country, then the access cost is much cheaper. And that's one of the things we're trying to solve as a company.
But running a hard tech company like this isn't easy in Africa. Henry lists hardware, access to funding, and availability of key skill sets as part of the challenges they've had to deal with.
So we've had a lot of challenges developing this technology and this business. For example, on the hardware side, on the kiosk side, the kiosk we have today is our 4th generation kiosk, smart solar kiosk. And the reason the first 2 generations was terrible, because I'm not an engineer that was very naive about the process. The process is very complex when you're trying to develop a physical product. First of all, you have to find the right company to do so. And the first 2 companies didn't have the skill set. We tried to look locally in Africa. We couldn't find anybody. So we had to go overseas in Asia, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because it'll be great to see this here. We try to manufacture ourselves, but that was just too expensive. So those are the challenges we have on the hardware side. The other challenge you see in Africa is when you're trying to assemble the product in Africa, most countries trying to tax you on every component. But if you bring the physical product at one, especially if it's a solar product, you get tax exempt in some countries. And if you do get taxed, you only get taxed in that one product. So we also have challenges to solve that issue in Africa, where our tax regime in most countries are not developed to promote small local innovators. The other challenge is raising money. Most investors are not interested in Africa for multiple reasons. They don't know Africa. They think Africa is still back in a war days and having more challenges than we actually have. They don't see the opportunity yet, even though the media is changing. So fundraising is a big challenge.
The Solar-Powered Kiosk is a novel innovation using renewable energy to power its solution. The kiosk are powered by solar panels, provided phone charging solutions, and Wi-Fi.
Nearly 2 decades ago, one man's dream of creating the world's largest exoskeleton mech suit was born atop the Playa, a Burning Man festival in California's Black Rock Desert, and brought home to Vancouver and Squamish, British Columbia. Jonathan Tippett, a Canadian-born artist and mechanical engineer, was transfixed by transformers in the power loader in James Cameron's 1986 film Aliens. But the now founder of Exosapien Technologies began to realize his dream in 2003, while at the annual communal gathering in the desolate desert along the California and Nevada border. His idea incubated for quite some time, and slowly but surely, after thinking with his other engineer friends about it and working their normal jobs, they finally took the leap into developing the exoskeleton mech full-time in 2015. Millions of dollars in research and development, visits to trade conventions and art shows, and a global pandemic later, they have a fully operational exoskeleton mech that has outstanded people from the globe.
There is literally nothing like it. Nothing like getting in a giant 4,000 kilogram, 200 horsepower mech suit. It amplifies your strength by about 50 times.
According to Tippet's favorite tagline, it's a cross between an excavator, a dune buggy, and a dinosaur. He describes the experience of piloting the mech as so unique that it sometimes brings giggles, a complete fear to the faces of those that experience it.
You have to climb up on this 10-foot tall machine and wiggle your way in. You get seated in there. At first you're locked in because the exoframe is directly linked to the structure of the machine, the legs of the machine, and so until you turn it on you can't move. And then the pumps fire up, the fluid starts flowing, the pressure comes up, and the machine like suddenly gets loose and it gets kind of like alive. And you realize that with the tiniest push of your hand or your foot, this 4,000 kilogram machine will move under your control.
Tippett now has his sights set on a new breed of mechanized sport, Global Mech Racing League. It would see 5 or 6 pro athletes operating mech suits, going shoulder to shoulder on huge complex technical race courses, pushing things out of the way, overcoming obstacles, and solving giant physical puzzles. He admits the technology and costs to create the mech suits still has a long way to go, but says the second generation of mech suits they're working on will be much more cheaper than the first.
We see a future, or imagine and envision a future where mech suits, powered mech suits, are as common as ATVs. You know, you can go out and buy one for sort of $50,000 to $80,000. There's industrial ones that are maybe $100,000, $150,000 that are ruggedized and more powerful and longer lasting. You could use them in all sorts of applications: mining, agriculture, search and rescue, disaster response. Forestry. You know, the sky's the limit. A mech suit is about as useful as a human, but amplified 50 times.
During 2020, Exosapiens mech was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest tetrapod exoskeleton in the world.
Mogwetembayi had always taken taxis to a banking job in Senegal's capital, Dakar, but haggling over prices and inhaling fumes through the open windows every day wore her down. She was happy to leave all that behind when French ride-hailing app Hitch launched in January. The ride costs a little more, but she considers it a small price to pay for the peace of mind.
Parce qu'on est une génération 3.0, on est tout le temps sur le smartphone.
We're 3.0 generation. We're on the smartphone all the time. And the ability to anticipate taxi orders, because you can't find a taxi all the time as soon as you get off. I prefer to wait quietly at home or at the office, and as soon as it's there, I get out and there's no waiting time.
Il n'y a pas de temps d'attente dehors. C'est pour cela.
Hitch was the second company to launch a ride-hailing app in Senegal in recent months after Yango, which is owned by Russian tech giant Yandex. Both are testing a largely untapped market for ride-hailing services in Francophone West Africa, where the industry has been slower to take hold than in Anglophone countries like Nigeria and Ghana that have more vibrant startup cultures.
Africa is a very young continent where connectivity is very high. Everyone has a smartphone. Everything that is done in the country, in Africa, is done with a phone. Between sending money to a relative who is in another city or talking via WhatsApp, Facebook, you can see that people are connected 24 hours a day. Hitch is coming into the digital world to modernize transport.
A few hundred taxi drivers have signed up for Hitch and Yango, but others said they were unimpressed. Yango said that even if a driver earns less for a particular route, he would still earn more overall with the app by reducing idle mileage.
Innovation and entrepreneurship. Those are two common concepts that are not just vital to building a successful startup, but also in ensuring a thriving digital economy. They help to drive change and spur economic advancement. I chat with Chizara Muchiaga on this, and he gives his opinion on the state of innovation in the country. Take a listen.
In Nigeria, there are lots of great innovative startups that are launching like virtually every day, and a number of them are actually getting funding for their ideas. So even in Q2 of 2022, most of these startups in Nigeria raised about 253 million. And there's a lot happening in the fintech and fintech sector. So both sectors actually accounted for 70% of investments in the last quarter. So I would say quite a lot of interesting things are happening in this sector.
But surely more can be done to improve our support for local startups, right?
Okay. Well, what I would say is that there's a lot needs to be done, especially to provide early stage funding to startups. So last year, African startups raised about $4 billion. That's in 2021. But sadly, only about $25 million went to early stage startups. So that means most of the funding is going to later stage companies. So these early stage startups, they need funds to hire staff, buy equipment, carry out research, pay for office space, and so many other things to sustain the business. So without access to training through accelerator programs and also access to funding, what happens is that a lot of good ideas that would have grown the economy will just die prematurely. So what needs to be improved is that a lot of support needs to go to early stage startups.
So now, regardless of the strides we've been seeing in our tech ecosystem, right, there are still a number of challenges facing startups and companies. But some would say that those that are innovative would see opportunities in crisis. How would you rate that in Nigeria?
Okay, well, there's obviously things that need to be in place to make the cost of running startups a lot less and globally competitive. So let's not forget that we're competing in a global space. So if solutions are more expensive because the startup needs to provide their own power, the internet cost is expensive and things like that, you see most sales for solutions in that their field will go to companies in China, India, USA, and the like. So I'll say a whole lot still needs to be done. So those infrastructure need to be in place and affordable so that we are globally competitive.
Now let's talk about impact. What impact will the shifting technological landscape have on the ability of companies and startups to innovate?
I'll say that for startups to survive the next phase of technology shifts that is happening, they need to keep a close eye on how technology is evolving. They also need to watch the changing needs of customers and pivot where necessary to meet those needs. So if your customer needs have changed and you've not changed to adapt to that, obviously, if you just stay stuck in your ways, you'll be left behind. So another startup or company that provides solutions for those needs will take the pie and you just be left-handed. So that constant need to adapt is very important for survival.
Now we know that digital disruption has created a lot of opportunities. How will the development of robotics, artificial intelligence, IoT, or even the management of big data affect companies?
Okay, so a lot of companies need data to drive decision making. I'll give an example, like Eats and Go Nigeria Limited, the guys that have the franchise for Cold Stone. When they set up a location, you see there's lots of foot traffic. We don't see that happening with a number of Nigerian startups. They launch and, or even traditional companies, they launch and few years, if they are even lucky to stay up to 2-3 years, they are gone. So, but most of these people do a lot of data and they are constantly improving. So they know how to allocate resources and things like that. And then even with the advancements in robotics and AI, a number of traditional jobs are going to go, but then it's going to create new ones because to manage these systems, you still need people who have those skills. So there's a constant need for people to keep learning and adapting. So that's what will help them keep up with this pace of disruption that is happening.
Now, still on innovation and entrepreneurship, right? We go to policies. How do we increase the impact of policies on startups?
Well, in Nigeria, there's no shortage of policies, not just in the technology space, but broadly speaking. So what needs to be done is better implementation. So a good way for that to happen is to adopt a lot of homegrown technologies. A good example of that is how the government adopted Remita by system specs. So you need more of these things. So there are companies that are building solutions daily that can fix problems in fintech, in agriculture, getting to the last mile, whether in logistics or whatever it is, or even in healthcare. So most of these companies need to be supported. That's kind of what we need on the policy side.
And finally, how do we unlock new collaborations for innovation?
What I would say is that there needs to be a mindset shift. So there are lots of companies building things in silos. So they need to start working together. So there are initiatives like the regulatory framework on open banking that the CBN is proposing to encourage fintechs and banks to collaborate, share their technologies with open APIs and things like that. So lots of that needs to happen across the sector. That's what will help the sector grow and help people take these companies from being local players to global players.
Well, Chizaram, it was such a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you. Nice to have you.
Living in a city like Lagos could sometimes be overwhelming as one tries to juggle the realities of workplace and life balance amidst traffic jams and other characteristics of a megacity. But what if one doesn't have to worry about how to run home chores and other mundane things we need to get done on a daily basis? That's a solution this Lagos-based startup is trying to provide.
We have problems every day in Lagos, and a lot of the time we choose to go back home to not worry about these problems. But we go back home to meet more problems, right? You want to fix a thing, you want to eat, you want to do your laundry, you want to clean, and you spend too much time worrying about all these things, right? You have one plug for food, one for laundry, one for your AC, one for plumbing. And even that becomes work in itself. Your escape becomes work in itself. And the question that we ask now is, what happens if all those problems can just disappear and become the problem of just one plug?
In their attempt to redesign the service industry, they provide a tech-enabled service that puts home chores on autopilot. With its solution called Eden, they appoint gardeners to suit the preferences of individuals, giving them a stress-free life.
We focus on 3 services. We focus on a food service that provides meal plans and meal packs to people. We focus on a laundry service, and we have a home cleaning service. And what it does is that by way of our app, once you set up a service, you set up one or you set up all of them, the moment you pay for it and set it up once, you never have to worry about these things again. They just work. You have like a personal assistant, we call them gardeners, within Eden, and their job is to make sure that any questions you have, any problems you have, they answer it for you, making all of this possible at scale with technology, right? So for you, it is all you have to worry about is your app and the schedule you set up on the app, what you want, the specific services that you want to happen on the app. That is where all of it melts together.
The mobile application is easy to navigate, and all one has to do is schedule what needs to be done at a particular time.
So this is home cleaning now, right? And all I have to do is ask the question, do I want like my routine light cleaning of the house, the normal sweeping, or do I want a deep cleaning? Deep cleaning here is basically saying that like I want it scrubbed, like I'm moving in, right? Yeah, I'll go for light cleaning. So it's a flat. How many bedrooms? It asks me how many bedrooms. I say, okay, 3 beds. He asks me how many living rooms. 1 living room, right? Asks me number of restrooms. I'd say 3, right? Then there's a kitchen, 1 kitchen. Of course, it's just, I have no study. Maybe I have like a balcony, right? And then it now asks me again that how frequently do I want this cleaning to happen? Do I want it to happen once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month? What day of the week will I want my house to be cleaned? Do I want it cleaned on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Any day I like, or Saturday. And yeah, all I have to do is hit save and we're good to go.
With its operational model for delivering services, the startup helps individuals increase their productivity by taking off the worries of their welfare workload.
The internet at home disconnects me, but that's a thing of the past. Today, I found the great solution. With Connect, I can get internet from space. It's super fast satellite internet from Connect. It's great. I can get internet everywhere. It's super simple and super fast. It's Connect. Broadband up to 100 megabits per second. All this from 6,900 naira per month. Isn't it great? Go to connect.com.
And it's a wrap on the show this week. Thank you for watching. As always, we will continue to show you how startups, big techs, and inventful thinkers are crafting homegrown solutions using technology. And if you miss any part of the show, you can always catch up on social media at Tech Trends TV or on the channel's TV YouTube account. For Tech Trends, I'm Olayemi Odunuga. See you next time.